So I started up the group, and the group kind of took off. And when we were up to what we had about 600 or so, people were trying to figure out how to live in a van and pay for your living. How do you do it? I'm going to tell you right now, the best way to pay for living in a van, if you truly want to live in a van and be somewhat free, although with the current situation, at least in America, I'm not sure what's going to happen after all this whole coronavirus thingy settles down, because you're going to wake up to a different world. Things are not going to be the same. They're not going to be like they were before. But I'm going to tell you one group you might want to join that I learned from people who joined our group and shared. There's another Facebook group called Work Campers. And what they are people who live in RVs or vans that travel around the nation. And they travel to do some kind of different types of jobs. Some of them are like resort work, where they work at like a ski lodge. Some of them are like national parks. They might even be some of the rangers. Some of them are at mobile home parks, where they go there and they serve as the person, I guess, that greets the guests and helps out and stuff like that. And for that, they get like either a free parking spot, sometimes a little bit of a salary, but those tend to be like seasonal. So those are some ways to really live the van life or the RV life. A lot of them, though, they tend to be more geared for like the national parks or the RV places. They're more geared towards RVers, you know. But some of the resorts and stuff may take van campers. So if you're wondering how to make money, I'm gonna let you know YouTube isn't the way to do it. I ended up on YouTube and monetized because of the people on Living in a Van. They all said, everyone just kept blurting out. I remember, I still remember those days. People were like, how do you live in a van? How do you pay for everything? Hey, Timothy, how's it going? So, people were like, how do you do it? How do you make money? And of course, all these people who don't really know, they all say, you should start up YouTube and you'll make money. So after enough people said that, I was like, you know what? This channel or the Facebook group was always about experimenting and stuff to see how things were done and what works and what doesn't work. And I went ahead and started up the YouTube just to go through the process of monetizing it. And I used to, when we first started, I used to publish updates and say, okay, this is what I did to set it up. Then I had to try to make social media, like the website and all this other good stuff. And then I had to try to promote the channel. See, this is where there's those people, the losers that I call them, the trolls and haters, failed. They thought that to be a successful YouTube channel, all you have to do is sit there and put together a channel and show what you think is cool. Kind of, but not really. What makes you a success as far as with YouTube or even social media is your ability to promote. And if you're a negative person, always picking on other people, you're not going to grow, at least not very fast. And if you do grow, you may be growing by attracting the wrong kind of people. You're going to attract all this negative energy and negative people. And then you wonder why you stagnate at a certain point. Well, that's why. Because it turns out most of the world aren't assholes. And you're attracting all the assholes. So, you know, anyhow, we formed the Living in a Van. I went through the whole process of applying for monetization, and here we are. It became a situation where I needed it for paying child support. Some people actually think that I get a lot of donations and stuff. Not really, okay? I do have some people who back me up. Those are the loyal people that have subscribed, I guess, to my Patreon. They're the ones making all these broadcasts continue to be possible. They contribute whatever, whether it be $1, $5, or whatever, to Patreon, because it helped me through that time where I didn't really have enough money, to even pay like $60, $70 a month for phone and internet service, basically. So those people are the people you really need to thank. And then other people they've been like quiet the whole time, like people like Connie, and even, I don't know how long Timothy's actually been with the channel, but some people came in big. Like, I don't know how long they've been following the channel. They said they've been following a long time, and I don't know what prompted them. Maybe because they knew, or God's timeline or something, about what was about to happen to the world. I don't know. I only know this. Certain key people jumped in at a certain time to create the situation where none of us, I think, really knew what was going to happen with the coronavirus and how the world would shut down. But it set the stage for me to actually be somewhat secure and in a position where I can actually try to help people. Isn't that weird how the world works? How things go? I'm kind of looking at things in retrospect. Like I've always said that, you know, I felt that I already died 10 years ago when all this crap in my personal life happened. And I couldn't believe the lies. I couldn't believe the system. I can't believe how people behave. And you can still see it now, with the trolls and the haters. But sharing that information was not something I intended to do, but it's something that ended up happening on its own. And with that information, two types of groups developed. You had the small minor ones who are the trolls and haters and a-holes. And then you had the others that were compassionate and actually helped and tried to help. Some of them are dead, like Richard Jameson, okay? Some of them may be dying because of the struggles that are going on right now. I can only say that, I do have each and every one of you in my thoughts every day. Some people are so kind, they not only helped me when they saw other people that needed help through this channel, and a lot of them were anonymous. I don't know if you guys know how much anonymous stuff happens. It's like the truly kind souls that have been attracted to this channel make me feel so blessed. Make me feel that maybe the world's not all shit. Because when my personal life fell apart and I saw how people lied and behaved, I was like, wow, my eyes were opened. But even through this process, some of you think I hate Charles and stuff. I still respect the man. You know, he, for some reason, got brainwashed by the trolls and stuff, but I won't get too much into it. I wouldn't be where I am if not even for Charles's contributions and what he did for the channel and what he tried to do for me and my family to an extent, And some people get angry at how he behaved towards the end there. I think he was stressing out. I don't even know. I'm looking at the situation. I really feel bad for him because he's probably really, really stressing out, because things were already kind of, I'm not going to get into it. I tend to know a little bit about people's personal lives because they share it with me. So I kind of can see their background a little bit. And people on this channel, when you watch somebody and their behavior, you're only seeing a very tiny facet. They're a lot more complicated than that. And some people think that the people helping me and stuff, they must have a hunky-dory life. They must have a great life. I will say this. They have a life that's theirs, and just like everybody else, they have issues and struggles as well, just like I do. And if you ever feel like you're the only one that suffers and stuff, I want you to know that a lot of the bigger helpers, some of the people that you really know by name on here because they stepped up and helped and stuff, they have issues that they're dealing with too. Okay? But somehow they decided that certain things were worth helping, or certain people or certain situations. And they did that. Maybe they had an inkling of what's happening. With the world, we always, one of the things I always push and have talked about on this channel is how precious life is and how you don't really know what's going to happen next. I didn't know any of the stuff that would happen to me as fast as it happened. It was like the spin of a dime. One moment I'm this well-respected teacher and everything was great. Everybody wanted me. The next moment, what do they call it when people hate you? You're pariah or something. You're like plastered all over the news, and then people start attacking you and threatening you and stuff. And then there's like a big cover up afterwards and all sorts of crazy shit. And then it never goes away. And then you find yourself in a position where you actually can impact a lot of lives. And for me, that's really a big responsibility. Sometimes I tell people, those who really got to know me, and there's been a few on here that have really gotten to know me, not this Denoy that you see on YouTube. That is just what is chosen to be shown. But there are some viewers on here who have connected as friends and stuff, and they got to know the real me, at least the parts that I share with friends, because who really knows you? I say God, maybe even yourself to an extent, but otherwise everybody else is what you choose to project. Okay. But I tell you this, life for me, every single day and every single moment has been a blessing. Even with all the craziness, even with dealing with the trolls and the haters and whatnot, it's still a blessing to be alive and to see all this, even though right now I feel sad with the state of the world and what's happening and how people are treating one another. But then I see some positive stuff happening as well. And I try to focus on the positive because there's always going to be negative. You know, well, who was it that said it? I don't know if it's in the Bible, but there's a statement that says, "This too shall pass." And once you realize that statement is truth, then no matter how crazy it gets right now, this too shall pass. And that to me tells me, something very important. And what that is this. Just giving you something else to look at. Maybe you can look at my kids when they were younger. They cute. If we can get it to focus here. Camera's having issues. Those are my cute kids when I first saw them after all hell broke loose from my personal life. Look how nice my teeth were back then. I had nice teeth. Anyhow, that too shall pass. Just to show you the kind of background stuff that occurs that doesn't make it onto the channel, okay? Did you know that Charles at one time was offering to pay for my teeth to be done? Same with Connie and several other people. They were literally going to pay to have a dentist work on my teeth. You're like, well, why didn't that get done? Because there were other things that I felt were more critical and important. And honestly, my teeth is like the last on my priority. Okay. Now that I'm working and stuff, if I can get myself to the point where I can save up some money, I may go ahead and have it done. But just so you know, there were kind people offering more stuff than what you see here. And there were people who, behind the scenes, helped other people. They never got named. They never wanted to get named. Okay? Those are the things that encourage me with life. Just like I started off showing the funny stuff. I also try to look at the things that people do that tell me that the world isn't all negative, that there's still goodness and there's still kind people, and there's still people who understand what it means to be alive. You're like, what is he talking about? I'm talking about how brief life really is for each and every one of us, and how every moment that we live is a moment for us to determine what kind of life we have, what kind of person we become, what it's like when we die. How will you be remembered? These are questions that people should consider, because that's what's going to determine your behavior. You could have all the money in the world and suddenly get the coronavirus and you're dead in 2 weeks. So, what is all that money really worth? Okay. I will tell you the people I hold in high esteem. Okay. Even the people that no longer are part of this channel because I've blocked them or have written them off and stuff, like people like Charles, I still hold him in high esteem. I don't know if you know, I'm going to tell you some stories for those of you who hate Charles, okay? Because you saw what he did. To me, I was like, wow, the trolls and stuff got to him. But I'm going to tell you some personal stories, even though this is a pass, and these are things that never hit the episodes. But just let me fill you in a little bit. He would actually drive over 1,000 miles to come over to try to help me out personally, because he would try to send all these links and stuff for me to mechanically work on my vehicle. And he would spend money to send the parts, but then they would just sit there, in a pile, and I never got to work on the vehicle. And at a certain point, he would get annoyed enough that he actually came over and would actually personally work on it. But not only did he personally work on it, knowing that he was going to come down here, he would actually save up money Mind you, some of you thought Charles had a lot of money. He's just like most people on here, struggling, okay? And he would actually save up some money and bring it and give it to me as a gift. And of course, I never wanted any of it. I never asked for it. But, he would kind of insist that I take it. And I would take the money and I would try to put it to good use, whether it be paying bills or actually setting some of it aside to try to help other people. There were never stipulations on that money, although he would get angry sometimes because he would be like, that money was supposed to be for you and you ended up using it to help somebody else. Some people actually get angry when they do that. They give you money and you end up using it on somebody else. They get upset. Then I started telling people, look, if you're going to be like that, put a note on there that you want it used for a specific cause, and I'll do that. And I'm pointing all this out because Pay It Forward is about to go live, and we're going to try to generate money with that channel. It's how I'm hoping to make most of the money. But I already know as a fact that some people will end up donating and stuff because that's how they are. They understand, what money really is. Like, for example, I just want to give you the significance of what money really is. And I was watching Will Prose. I don't know how you pronounce his last name. Is it Prose or Prowse? I admire that kid. He's younger than me. He's got a good head on his shoulders, and he's got the right idea about money because he's rolling in it right now because his channel is so popular. But he's got the right idea, and on one of his latest videos, he bought a Tesla for himself. Would you believe people hated him on that? The guy was like homeless and lived on his own in the past. He's had like a rough life. Okay, from what I can tell from what other people told me and what I could tell from his previous videos, some of them, okay, that he used to have a really rough life. And, he spent his life trying to develop this image and gaining knowledge to the point where he's seen as almost like an expert on YouTube. And that's why he has the following he has. And he works really hard on his videos. And he's very good at teaching. Okay. But he got to the point where I think he was doing okay, even as the rest of the world was falling apart, you know, because his YouTube was bringing in money, still is bringing in money. He went ahead and bought himself a Tesla. And then he publicized it, and he got all this hate. He didn't even get donations. Unlike me, people could see that he was successful. He never asked for money. I originally never asked for money. And honestly, I still don't really ask for money. Not for me. But people feel that they want to donate, and then they do. I try to decline it, but people end up insisting. And then here's the thing about giving money or giving help to somebody, okay? Those who never ever did it don't understand, but those who have, who help someone else, like whether it be volunteering in a soup kitchen or something, there is something special about that. And it's not just the value of the money, okay? It's something uplifting for your own soul. Because we talk about how short life is, that's your life. That's the person you are, you know? And let's jump back to Will Prose or whatever. So he buys himself a Tesla during this trying time right now, and he tells his viewers about it because he's so excited, you know. And he got all this hate that he pulled his video, although I think he put it back up because probably enough people told him, Will, ignore those haters and trolls. You deserve this. You earned it. It's yours. Okay. So anyhow, he's done nothing but share knowledge on his channel to show people. First, I think he started with the RV type connections and stuff for the solar and stuff. Then he started getting more money and stuff because he found that when he was emphasizing solar power and battery systems, everybody wants to learn that. And now with the world falling apart, his channel is going to grow exponentially. To an extent, I even think this channel might end up growing, or a variant of this channel on the lower end, like, showing people how you can hook up electricity, how you can generate stuff like this. We're not high end, but we're reasonable in the sense that anybody with a couple $100 could do this and survive and actually improve it and get better. Sometimes you don't have $10,000 for a solar power system. You're like, well, I want to power a tiny house. Well, I'm powering an RV that's like a tiny house for under $1,000. Maybe if you add everything up, let me think. How much did I pay? I paid, I think it was like, was it $300 for the solar panels or less? And then I think it was about one, two, three, $400 for the battery, so that's $700. $200 for the inverter. That's 900. And then I had to get an MPPT controller, which I bought for about $100. So that's gonna be $1,000, and then wiring and stuff. So I would say under $1,100. And I'm gonna have a 1,000 watt system, you know, that has enough power to run a refrigerator all day, all night, and lights and video games and everything else. So I think my $1,000 system probably could stand up against a $5,000 system with somebody buying everything new and buying the latest, greatest. Of course, their system's going to be better. They spent more money, but mine was like $1,000, you know. So, and for this van, the system was even cheaper, to install the 255-watt panel, the $15 PWM charge controller, and the batteries. Batteries are going to be your most expensive. Um, I have probably about $200 in batteries, $15 on the PWM, and about less than $50 on the solar panel. And let's add up wiring and stuff. I'm gonna say the total was, let's say 200, under $300. $300. And even this TV I bought for like $15 at Goodwill, you know. Let me scroll through here. I see you guys are talking about editing with Windows. Scrolling through here. Yeah, the Life of Sims was talking about YouTube's free editor. They used to have a really nice editing thingy. I mean, it was simple and stuff, but they removed it because it was taking up processing power from their servers. And I'm kind of mad at that because I work off the phone, I don't like having to have an editor and all that. But uh, so I kind of edit live, I don't really edit. I'm pausing. But see, the problem is like on a live stream, because of unlimited internet, I do live streams because it's filmed and uploaded right at the same time. Obviously, quality is not going to be as good as those people who can sit down and edit. We may end up turning this channel into a nicer channel as far as living in a van. Like all the content here may end up getting deleted, believe it or not. And you're like, what do you mean? You're going to delete everything? I'm going to recreate stuff as an educator to teach you how to live in a van, how to do it on an economical front, as well as, if monetarily I become a little bit more stable, I'm going to show you what happens if you have a little bit more money and you want to spend money and have a really nice system. So it's cheaper than getting a house, but you can be off-grid sustainable for a decent price and have it nice. I really personally think this van, even though some people think it's a dive and stuff, it's pretty nice. I have Wi-Fi, I have TV, I even have regular HD TV. I have air conditioning if I want to run the AC and start up the car. I have the ability to charge off the sun. I have the ability to charge off, the gas without a generator by using the vehicle. I can cook in it. I can eat in it. I can entertain in it. I can carry my kids in it. All in a $700 car. So, this channel has been about cheaper, so I may keep some of that stuff. I may refilm it with, the better camera, although I'm not going to buy a better camera. And I will share, I didn't give him, I guess, the mention that he deserves, but one of my viewers sent me a 4K video camera that I haven't even opened up yet, because he wanted me to produce better quality. People were complaining about my crappy handheld phones, especially initially. This viewer sent me, I think, almost a year ago, right before the hurricane hit. He sent me a 4K camera. Maybe I'll give his name and stuff when I can get back to it and stuff. But I may open that up just to take a look at it and try to film with it. The issue I have with filming 4K is it will produce giant size files. And if you're uploading and stuff, that becomes an issue. And the other problem is I don't know if I can stream with it. I haven't even looked at the camera. It's not like a GoPro, but I think it's like a cheaper version of a GoPro. So I'll do that to thank that viewer. I may use that camera to film some stuff, but for me, 4K is like overkill for a channel like this. Tim is saying, when you have money, invest a $200, what's that, BLU on Amazon? Just scrolling through here. Somebody wants to live on a motorcycle. Life of Sim wants to live on a motorcycle with a pulled trailer behind. People will watch that. People will definitely want to watch that. See, that's the key. See, like the Life of Sims was just talking about his channel that he wants to build, okay? He wants to, I guess, live and travel in a motorcycle. And he's going to build a little trailer, like a little camper trailer or whatever, to pull, like a little camper trailer to pull behind his motorcycle. And he's gonna have solar power and be self-contained. Talk about a tiny house. That's gonna be a really self-contained tiny house. And I am sure a lot of people will want to watch that, especially in light of the circumstances going on around the world right now. I think a lot of people lost a lot of their wealth. Some people may end up becoming homeless if if the banks and the businesses continue to prosper like they do whenever bad stuff like this happens. Expect to see more homeless people. People who thought they were safe before are suddenly going to be wanting to live the van life. And having a van with electricity and solar and air conditioning and all this other stuff becomes a luxury. I know it doesn't seem like I'm in luxury right now, but when you look at the homeless people who are on the streets, this is luxury. Lizzie Two Shoes. I have not heard from her, Timothy. I did try to personally call her. I had her phone number, and she has not returned my call. The last person I heard from was Cindy, her friend, so I may try to reach Cindy again. I did not get any offers for anybody to try to take her in. And I also didn't have anyone else contacting me to try to get into a place. So either people are safe or people are at the point of like, you know what? I trust God and whatever happens, happens. But I don't know what the update is on Lizzie. If anyone knows, please contact me or contact Timothy. Life of Sims has been out of work for almost 7 years. See, I know a lot of people look at that and may look down on it. They really don't understand the job market, especially for someone older. You know, and even younger or older, everybody's life is different. So people don't exactly go through the exact same sequences of stuff. So they may not even relate to your background, and then they filter your situation through their eyes, through what they encounter, and they make an assumption that everyone's life is the same as theirs, that everyone's situation was the same as theirs. And maybe they had a bad situation and they recovered from it. They don't understand why you didn't recover from it. Well, I can tell you the answer is you're not them. And you didn't go through the exact same sequence or the exact same stuff that they did, just like they didn't go through the exact same stuff as you. You know, that's what intrigues me about some of the people on this channel, is that they judge the present and the situation and respond accordingly. Do you understand what I'm saying? I think they do. Those people do, because that's how they live. That's like their model for life. And it's kind of like what I do. Like one of the things I would tell you that got me upset with Charles, okay? And several of the viewers on here, I got really upset with him. I don't know if you guys remember the girl. I can't even remember her name. The girl that I helped that was on the street. That one day in the hotel with the blood everywhere and all that other weird stuff. There was a lot of weird stuff that happened with that. But I helped that girl, okay, because I saw her there and she looked like she needed help. And some people say, well, she was a street girl. There was also the bad stuff. And her pimp was the one that beat her up and all this stuff. And I was putting myself in danger. I understand all that. I'm not like a little kid, okay? I'm 53, almost 54. I think I've been around the blocks a couple times. I chose to do that, even knowing that I might be putting myself in danger. And I chose to do that knowing that it might be to no avail. I chose to do that because I saw another human being in need of help. And I decided to try to step in. Richard Jameson helped her out. Now, he's dead now. Okay? He sent a whole bunch of money to try to get her into that hotel room that night. Why? Because, like me, he saw somebody in need of help. Some people are saying, well, she could just go back and do drugs and all this other stuff. That's not for me to determine. I don't know her future. I don't know her fate. I only know that when I saw her, she needed help. And I wanted to help her as best as I could. People got mad over that. Some people got really angry, and they didn't even contribute anything other than hatred and anger. Other people who had contributed in the past got angry. One person that really set Charles off. Do you guys remember that one girl that was like freezing? It was at night at the pier by the library. I saw that girl in the morning, huddled, with she was just huddled. She didn't even have anything. And it turned out that I guess she had gone to, was it Squid Lips or whatever that restaurant is called now, right off the water, right there next to the Ogali Library. She was huddled behind the sign, trying to keep the wind from hitting her because it was cold that day. And I got up and I saw her, and I saw that she needed help. She looked like she might have been homeless, but it turns out she wasn't homeless. She's better off than I am. I think she has a house. Okay? Regardless of that, at that very moment, at that time, I saw a fellow human being shaking and shivering. So I saw her shivering and shaking in the cold, and I decided to give her one of my blankets from my vehicle. I gave her one of my sheets or something so she could at least block the wind. And then I found out that, she had been left there by her friend. I gave her like $20 to try to get an Uber ride back home, you know. And Charles went off on that. He's like, she was better off than you, and you gave her $20. Remember now, Charles had given me money in the past. He felt that because he had given me money, to help me, that if I was giving any money to help someone else, I was giving his money. And he got upset with that. And, I said, well, the thing is, um, I felt she needed help. Just like when you saw me, you felt I needed help, but then he didn't want to accept that. And, anger like that occurs when people feel like, when they help you, they kind of own you. But that's not really helping. I think helping somebody, you do it freely. I don't know if I've told you this, but I'm going to point it out because some of these people you can see right now. And just a little bit behind the scenes so you know how people are. And everyone's different. I hope I don't make them mad, but I think people should know how humans are. Okay? Maybe I won't mention names. One of the biggest helpers on this channel, okay, did ask me at times, like they would send money or whatever to help, but they wanted it for specific things. And if they tell me that, then I honor that. And if I can't use it for their specific cause that they asked that it be used for, I actually will try to send the money back. I'll tell them, hey, this wasn't possible or this isn't happening the way you wanted to. What do you want me to do? And that occurs like behind the scenes. Then you have some other people who are selfless, and I will point this one guy out because, you guys know him. Maybe I shouldn't, but maybe I will. I will because we could all die next week for all I know, okay? And I think this person does need to be known and recognized, and that's Timothy. He works a lot behind the scenes. I don't know if you know that. He's probably one of the viewers on here that I think is one of there are others who are compassionate, but they tend to be a little bit shy and quiet. But Timothy will actually go and try to work behind the scenes to help a bunch of people. I don't know if he's helping people on his own channel and other stuff. But I know on this channel, when I send a call out, he doesn't tell people. But he actually is one of the people who actually tries to, I don't know how to describe it. He actually tries to help with whatever he can. And some of it is like beyond normal helping. It's like, I would say selfless. And sometimes I worry about people who help like that because I'm like, I hope they're not putting themselves in jeopardy. Because some people do that, they help, but then they themselves end up really messed up. And some people feel like that about me. I get that. Some people will actually write me and say, Denoy, you should take care of yourself before you help other people. But I tell you this, and I said it before, and I'll repeat it again because I think it's worth repeating. If you always wait till the perfect moment, you know, when you're stabilized enough to help somebody else, it may never happen. And then coronavirus comes along and you get it and you die 2 weeks later. So in that case, your whole life was spent getting help from other people and you never ever helped anybody else at all. Think about that. And I will tell you this, and this is a truth that I know. A lot of the people who helped me, they need help. Did you know that? You're like, "What? You're telling me these people didn't have perfect lives?" No, they have issues, just like you and me because they're human. And I know when they help me, they are digging into, I guess, their own inner resource, their own inner reserve that they could use to make their life better. Do you understand? And that's the same stuff I do or try to do when I can. Does that mean I foolishly help everyone that I can? No, I have to make a decision and I have to balance. I can't help everybody, but I try to help when I can. And sometimes I do have to step back and say, sadly, I can't help. And it's because I'm not in a good enough position for that. And sometimes when I can only help a little bit, I try to help a little bit, you know. And the reason I do that isn't because I think I'm going to die next week or whatever. It's because it's my choice for my life. Do you understand? Just scrolling through here. Life of Sims, you didn't have to send me money, man. Is that for me or is it for Pay It Forward? If it's for Pay It Forward, let me know. Actually, if you guys that are sending me money, one, I'm already working now, so it's not like before where I had only $3. So if you really want to donate and stuff and you want it for me, let me know. If not, I'm going to put it towards Pay It Forward. Okay, I'm going to start up a fund there and try to get that going. Chances are, once that channel is fully working, I'm going to be putting some people that run it. I got to get people who get along, though. Because eventually, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it, but I plan to try to make that channel to the point where it's kind of like a collective. Certain people will be running it and using it to continue, I guess, the good work, the good deed, the compassion. That I heard noises, like maybe someone trying to get in my van, like zombies. Maybe the zombie apocalypse has started. That's what everybody was preparing for, right? Everybody was preparing for the zombies. What people haven't realized yet. I'm not gonna make a joke. This is actually serious stuff, so maybe I won't make a joke. Just scrolling through here. Yeah, Timothy says now he understands why I built my van. I can tell you this, after this whole thing's over, a lot more people are going to be preparing a lot better because now they know what it's really like. I can see that we have a troll on here. Hey, John Davis, hope things are going well with you, man. Well, Life of Sims, if you want to donate, that's fine. But you really don't need to donate to me. I'm doing okay financially for now. Maybe I'll apply what you donated unless you specifically designate it to me. I'm going to try to probably put it towards Pay It Forward because it's going to take a while for that channel to actually start generating revenue. YouTube revenue is way down right now. As far as watch time, subscribers, and all my count, we're actually moving back up, and I think it's because people are finding it. You know, people are in a dire situation right now, and they're finding this channel. So people tend to search. It would be interesting to find out how you guys found my channel. What did you search for? How did you, you know, maybe we'll do that on Pay It Forward, just to introduce everybody to me. Because a lot of you, like Life of Sims, I know you from being on here for so long. I know John Davis from first grade. He was one of my first graders. But I don't know how you found this channel, because John Davis found this channel and said, hey, that's my teacher. But Timothy, I don't even know how long he's been with this channel, because a lot of people were actually at one time lurkers. They might watch this channel for a year or two or whatever before they actually jump in. But what would be interesting is finding out, how did you find my channel? You know, because I really don't know. And that to me is kind of interesting, just interesting tidbit of how people found me and how we ended up growing like we did. It would give some insight, you know, for those of you who are trying to start your own YouTube. I'm going to tell you this right now, though, from what I can tell, at least on this end, YouTube earnings have gone way, way down. And if you're planning on making a living off YouTube, it might become very, very difficult. I don't know if it's gone down because of the lawsuit that YouTube is facing, or because advertisers have canceled all their advertising due to the coronavirus and companies folding left and right. Hi, AC. AC wants to know how I set up my my wiring and stuff. Maybe I'll do a little drawing, a simplified drawing one day, just to show you how it's wired and stuff. But really, it's not too difficult. I just took the solar panel and I just mounted it with the L bracket. You can watch the videos. And then I just ran the positive I put a switch in there just for safety that I can turn it off, because I don't want power running through it if I'm messing with the power system. This is what I've learned so far about solar panels, okay? Just some little tidbits, although we haven't done a full discussion on it. I am not by any means a solar expert or wiring expert. I'm just telling you what I've learned and what works for me. Solar panels apparently can be disconnected, even though they're sitting in the sun. When they get disconnected, it's okay. They don't keep charging. They only charge when circuit, you know, like there's a connection or a short. Then it actually, but I think you can't even really short out a solar panel. I was reading on that because I accidentally shorted it out on the RV. I'll tell you that. I had the plugs, you know, it comes in with those special adapter plugs. And I was like, well, I don't want to leave these exposed. Water might hit it and cause a short circuit. So I plugged the positive into the negative on the solar panel. Like, shit! As soon as I plugged it in, I was like, that's a short circuit. So I was like, the solar panel will be generating electricity and it's going to burn itself out. I don't know if I damaged it or not. I unplugged it within 1 second, because once I plugged it in, I realized that. Then, of course, I Googled short circuit on a solar panel. And from what I can tell, they say you can't do that. So I don't understand the engineering behind it, but apparently you can't short circuit a solar panel by plugging it into itself. I don't know. That's assuming that information was correct. But anyhow, what was confusing me was this. Solar panels have different voltage ratings, and typically they're a little bit higher than the battery bank that you want to plug into. I'm going to turn the fan on because it's starting to get hot in here. Woo! And my fan's not coming on, which means this probably needs to be messed with. There. See, I had a loose connection here. I don't know if you saw that, so I had to just shove it in. That's one of the problems with multi-plug. And also these have little switches, so I can turn the fan on and off from here if I wanted to. So the fan's on right now. It's blowing a breeze at me. I got it circulating, and I'm going to turn off the circulation and just have it blowing at me right now. So it's a nice breezy. What is the temperature in here? 81 degrees inside the van right now. So that fan is really helping out. But anyhow, one of the things that was of concern to me was 12 volts, 24 volts, 48 volts, all these different configurations and power systems, okay? Well, the most ideal way to do it, if you have a 12 volt battery system, you probably want to get 12-volt solar panels. And when I say 12-volt solar panels, it doesn't mean that it generates 12 volts. It should generate roughly 14 to 17 volts, somewhere in that range. It basically has to generate more than 12 volts. And the reason it has to generate more than 12 volts is electricity likes to flow from high to low. So if your battery is a 12-volt battery, then you need to charge it with something that's generating more than 12 volts. If your solar panel is only generating 10 volts, your battery wants to charge up the solar panel. Now do you understand? So that means that even though I have a 12-volt battery system, my 24-volt panels, which I think generate upwards of 27 volts, okay, it generates 27 volts because it's designed to charge up a battery bank that's 24 volts. 27 volts is more than 24, so it'll flow down to the 24. But not only will it flow down to the 24, it will also flow down to a 12, because 27 is much more than a 12. And this is where I think the difference is. I'm not fully sure if I understand it correctly about PWM and MPPT, the differences between the controllers. I think a PWM has a threshold where it cuts off. Basically, for me to charge my 12-volt battery, I need a solar panel that makes more than 12 volts. The problem is, if I have more than 12 volts and I send in 27 volts, I could end up exploding my battery. It can go in there and overcharge and heat up and explode. So 12-volt batteries, I think optimum charging on it is roughly between 13.6 to 14.2 volts. That's why those solar panels for a 12-volt battery, they usually go like 17 or 14 or whatever. They're only slightly more than the battery bank it's designed to charge. So then how do I charge my 12-volt battery system with the 24 volts? Well, it turns out the charge controller is where the magic occurs. If I understand correctly, please feel free to put in the comments or in the chat here if I'm wrong. A PWM controller will take my 24 volts, which is actually 27 volts that it can generate, and actually get rid of half or more than half of it. It just goes away. It takes that voltage and cuts it down to 14.1 or whatever it's set at right now at the factory. I can change that setting if I want to, but I'm leaving it at the default because it's defaulted to work off lead acid, lead acid battery like I have right now on my RV batteries that are here, my deep cycle batteries. I'm using cheap batteries. So it's set to charge at 14.1 is the maximum charge rate. So it'll send 14.1 volts down from the solar panel. Well, actually it sends 27 volts from the solar panel to the charge controller. The charge controller siphons off 14.1 volts and sends that to my battery. I don't know what happens to the rest of the voltage. I think it just goes away. It's like wasted. That's the PWM charge controller. So I think even though I have a lot more voltage right now, it just gets lost. I don't know if you understand that. It means that I'm wasting my solar panel. I'm charging a 12-volt system using a 24-volt panel, so I'm losing roughly half of the capacity to charge. If I had a MPPT controller, it'll take the full 27 volts that gets sent down from the charge controller, and somehow it splits it up into, it'll do 14 volts, 14.1 volts, which is the charge level that I want to send down the voltage, but it increases the amperage. So more energy goes in really fast at the 14 volts. What that allows is my battery to charge faster. So no energy is lost, or less energy is lost. So if you have a PWM charge controller, it doesn't mean it's useless. It just means that in a situation like this, where the solar panel and the battery pack is mismatched, you're not going to get optimum performance. But in my case, especially for this van, I don't need optimum performance. The solar panel is making more electricity than I need. Well, what I saw today was my battery was like showing 13.6. It was fully overcharged. And I'm like, well, I'm going to have to run that down a little bit. And that was with the working refrigerator running on it, the little mini fridge thingy. So I'm like, wow, I can plug in all sorts of appliances during the daytime and pull that energy off the solar panel. It's giving me, they talk about free electricity. This is it. This is free electricity. So I might even run a fan all day long inside my van so it vents out the air. So during the daytime when I have free electricity, I might run one of these fans and have it suck air through my van so it doesn't get to 130 degrees in here. Although, getting it to 130 degrees means I can just come lay in my van and it'll kill the coronavirus. So maybe I want it hot in here. Anyhow, that's how I have it wired. I take the positive wire and the negative wire and I run that from the solar panel to my switch. And the switch is just a little house switch. It's like a little light switch. That light switch is designed for 120 volts. I'm not sending 120 volts. I'm only sending 24 volts or 27 volts. So that switch will be able to withstand 27 volts. It's designed for 120. But that's 120 AC. I don't know if AC DC makes a difference. We're going 27 volts DC versus 120 volts AC. I don't know enough about electronics. I don't know enough about wiring. I know a lot of people say, Denoy, you're risking a fire. I know. But it's been working fine for me for 3 years. Okay? So I'm not too worried about it. It works. It works for me. Okay? So that switch, what I did was I ran the red line. I made the red line the positive so I can look at it and see which line is positive and which line is negative. And to join it, instead of buying a $20 cable, I just bought like 10 AWG cable from Home Depot. So I took the 10 AWG cable and I wired it, I cut it, and then I took those little tube extensions, which I think I showed you in some of the videos, or the ones from today. I basically just clamped the two wires together and I put a heat wrap around it to kind of protect it. And that's it. It was a real cheap connection. It works. You just want continuity in your wiring. And I put the red wire to the switch so that when I flip the switch off, the red line doesn't make the connection, so the solar panel doesn't send electricity down to the system. I did not put in any fuses, which is probably a safety issue. So that might be something you might want to add if you're safer than me, but I didn't do that. So I send the power, when I throw the switch on, the solar panel will send down upwards of 27 volts to my PWM or the MPW, whatever, that charge controller. It's a cheapy one, the $15 one I bought. It sends it to that unit, and then that thing says, hey, I only need 14.1 volts to go through to the battery. And the rest of it, I don't know what the heck it does with the rest of the power. It might send it back up to the panel to be released as heat. I don't know. But it'll send 14.1 volts, which is what my battery can draw to charge reasonably. And it sends it to my battery, and my battery stores at 14.1 volts. Or it starts to store it into the cell, and save that power for use later. Meanwhile, I have my inverter, the positive from the inverter going to the positive on the battery terminal, and the negative from the inverter going into the negative on the battery terminal. So I plug my inverter, which is a 750 watt Walmart cheapy inverter, directly to the battery. Now that's just on solar side, okay? And that would allow you to have solar power charging your battery bank without dealing with the alternator. Now with the alternator system, which was the first system I had, it's similar, but it doesn't go through a charge controller. The vehicle's alternator serves as a charge controller. That alternator creates a lot of amps, but something on the alternator or another system that's already in the car limits the voltage to 14.1 or 13.6 or something like that. It limits it so that it doesn't blow up your battery. So I don't have to worry about it sending 27 volts or 100 volts or whatever. It's not going to send more than 13.6 or 14.1 or whatever it sends out. So it sends that to from the alternator, on which on my vehicle is on this side. I don't wire it to the alternator. The alternator sends the power to this side of the vehicle, which is where the battery sits up front, the vehicle starter battery. That's where I pull the power from. So the alternator charges up the car starting battery. And what I did on this one, I kind of did something interesting with the wiring, because one of the viewers told me that the whole vehicle is ground. It's like the negative on a terminal. That you don't really need to run the wire all the way to the battery, even though others told me you should do that, because then that gives you the best current flow. Because your vehicle could have all sorts of weird stuff, that interferes with the electricity flowing. But I decided to take the easier way, which is only pull one wire instead of two. So what I did, and yes, I'm going to have schematics on this later. Okay, I'm going to draw it, but if you can follow me visually. The battery terminal, the starter battery, has two posts, a positive, which is the red, and a negative, which is the black. I only hook up a wire to one terminal, the positive, which is the red. Now I'm going to simplify it. You take that red wire, which is the positive, and you hook that up to your house battery, which is, the positive. Then, if you wanted to do it with two wires, you hook up the negative from that battery to the negative on your house battery. And there you have a dual battery system. That's essentially how it's set up. But for safety, I did several things to this system. Where it connects to the vehicle starter battery, the red post, the positive, I put in an inline fuse, a fusible thingy. And that fuse was set at 30 amps. Is it 30 or 35 amps? I think it's 35 amps. I found that 35 amps, my battery and the alternator can generate upwards of 25 to 30 amps. About 25 amps it'll send through the system to try to charge the second battery at a super high speed. Okay? And it can do it safely over a 10 AWG wire. How do I know? That's what I've been using, and I haven't had a fire yet. So I know that 10 AWG is enough to send whatever the alternator is sending out, okay, to the other battery. But what I did was I put a fuse there, so if there's ever a short circuit and it tries to go above 35 amps, it'll blow. It'll cut the connection, so the two batteries won't be connected anymore. Then, to make it so I can turn on and off charging, I take the wire, okay, I put it through the fusible link that I made up there on the positive. I take the wire from the fuse and I hooked it up to a switch, just like I did here. Cheap little house switch. And that's the positive line. So I can flip it on and off. When I flip it off, it disconnects the two batteries, which means I'm not charging. At least not off the alternator. When I flip the switch, electricity is flowing from the alternator. That's when the car's running, of course, the van's running. The alternator generates electricity, sends it to the starter battery. The starter battery sends it to my house battery. And that's what I was using for the last 3 years. And when I cook, okay, remember the inverter is hooked up directly to the house battery on the positive post and on the negative post. When I cook, I throw the switch on because power for the inverter right here, that little red inverter, is being pulled from the house battery, which would drain very fast because I'm using electricity to make heat, which is very expensive on power. But with the alternator generating electricity and restocking the battery, as well as flowing through to the inverter, I'm able to cook while I'm driving without draining my battery completely. And that's why you always saw those driving and cooking with Denoy episodes earlier. When I first started living in the van, I would drive somewhere and I would have my food cooking while I was driving. Because while I was driving, I was sending at least 20 to 30 amps from the alternator to the house battery. And that's what was being pulled to heat up my rice cooker and whatever I was cooking up. So that's how that was wired. Now, there was a shortcut that I didn't, I told you that you only have to pull one wire. If you pull the red wire, the positive from the vehicle battery to your house battery, you don't need to pull the negative wire, from the black wire. What you can do is take your house battery and just run a line to metal, bare metal, on the frame of the vehicle. And you're like, you don't have to run a wire? No, because it turns out on your vehicle battery, you know how it has that black cable that goes to the battery right there? They also ran a line from that battery, from that black, to the vehicle's metal. That's ground. So when you hook up your house battery to the metal on the vehicle, the frame of the vehicle, it automatically connects back to the battery that's under the hood. That's how that was done. So that's very basic. I will try to draw this out one day to make it a little bit clearer to see, and then to show you how the solar got installed so that I have both systems and I can turn either one off or both off. Right now I have the solar on, but it's not charging. If I wanted to, I can flip the switch and the solar will go off. Matter of fact, I'll switch it off. The reason I'm going to switch it off, see, it doesn't make a difference. I'm still pulling battery power from here. It's just not charging at all now. So right now, nothing is charging. And you're like, well, why did you do that, Denoy? Well, because when I wake up tomorrow morning and I drive to work, I'm going to flip that switch for the inverter cooking system, which is actually a connection between the vehicle battery and the house battery, so that my alternator will charge my battery pack. Although I don't really need to do that. What I've been finding is that the solar panel is so efficient, even though it's not running in super efficient mode, it's good enough, or better than good enough, to completely charge my house battery while I'm working. So that when I go to work and I get off work, the battery is fully charged. Timothy says, 2 years ago is when Timothy first found this channel, I guess. And then he caught a live broadcast. And then he became a super, what is it, fish? No, starfish? Super starfish. Yeah, I'm talking about California. Okay, let's scroll through here. It looks like we only have 2 people on here. Timothy and Life of Sims. The rest must be trolls and AC. I think with the new format, what's going to happen with this channel, because all these live streams that we're doing where we're chatting and just hanging out as buddies or whatever, it's going to be moved over to Pay It Forward. This channel is going to start to lose probably about 95% of its videos. 95% of the content on here is going to go away. I'm just giving you a heads up. I will probably remake some videos showing everything from scratch with a better camera and maybe with diagrams and stuff, so that the channel is actually more useful as a living in a van channel versus Denoy's drama with the trolls and all the other weird crazy stuff that's going on. All of this stuff is going to go away. And it's going away because I'm going away. If I ever come back, maybe you'll see me one day broadcasting from an elephant. That's if I get my dream wish. Well, my wish is to go back to Thailand, and that's where I will live out the rest of my years. That is, unless my wife decides she wants to live out the rest of our years in America. Then I need to find a place in America where they will kind of leave me alone. I just want to be a hermit. I don't know if you guys know that. I'm really a hermit. Hey, Connie, good to see you on here. And I think that's the thing, though. I think a lot of the people here on this channel are drawn to trying to live a simpler life. you know. And that's one of the things that I'm really really happy about with the Pay It Forward channel. I think people on there are taking the time to get to know one another and to build that network where you basically all, a lot of you may want to be kind of hermitish, but maybe every once in a while you don't want to be such a hermit, and you might want to have someone you can chat with at least, you know, in a situation where you get to determine how much about you want to reveal, and whether or not you want somebody as a friend or just an acquaintance that's kind of a friend more than just a regular acquaintance. Because see, like on stuff like social media, like Facebook and stuff, sometimes people friend you and they just sit there, but they're not really like a friend. They're just friend on social media, but not on real life. Whereas what we're trying to push for with the Pay It Forward channel is for people to actually connect with one another and really kind of know each other a little bit. I'm not saying you have to meet or anything like that, but I'm saying that you actually feel like you have real friends. Just like face to face friends. Some of you may end up face to face friends, may hang out. Some of you who want to travel for safety, there is safety in number. I wouldn't be surprised if people formed their own little caravans of little groups that kind of travel in a pack, because there would be safety in that. Maybe 3 to 5 people in a caravan. That to me is manageable. And maybe caravans can split up, meet at different points and then split groups that want to split. Everybody would be self-contained, have their own vehicle, and be self-sufficient. And because everyone's, I guess in a way, it's almost like, even though I try to shy away from saying a tribe, I know some of my viewers on here, I don't know if it was Maggie or somebody was telling me that people were forming their own little tribes. So I guess the word tribe seems to be a thing that people like. Even though sometimes I feel like maybe the Indians, get upset when white people start calling themselves tribes. or nomadic groups or families. But I don't really care what name you guys call yourselves. But what I do care is that I hope that people connect on a personal basis level and actually don't feel alone and feel that they have a network that they can count on. So you would have like an immediate, almost like a family of your local small group, which I would say between 3 to 5 people, maybe a little bit more. I say 3 is an ideal, because 2, if one goes missing, you have no clue what's going on. If there's 3 of you, you both can kind of work together. Like 2 heads are better than 1, to try to figure out if the third one's okay and what's going on. But if you're all together, and start hanging out together and stuff, it's just a safety network. And then the other thing is, because we're all coming from Pay It Forward, it's not just the 3 or 5 of you. Potentially, there could be thousands of you. There is strength in number. And as this channel has shown, I'm attracting some manufacturers and vendors, stores and things like that want, distributors that want to promote their products, and they're sponsoring the group. So what that gives us is the ability to have direct contact, potentially with manufacturers or service providers or item providers. And the significance of that is this: we have direct access to the people who make products that can make life easier for van dwelling or the nomadic lifestyle, or living in an RV, or living in a camper, or maybe living off-grid in a tiny house, or whatever. It's an amazing time to be alive, because you have access to the people who actually either produce it or distribute it. You're not just, it's not like you just go to a store and pick it up. We actually have some say in it. Maggie says, take you with me. If I end up staying on YouTube and stuff, I'll be sharing a little bit. But honestly, seeing all the hate and stuff on here, like I said, I really don't know what the future holds. I know that personally, I've been wanting to leave YouTube for over 2 years. I felt like most of the van stuff has already been said. I am going to redo the whole channel as time permits. The plan is to make instructional videos that will be on this channel. A lot of the personal stuff is going away, just because I want to disappear. I may stay on pay it forward, at least for the time being, to set it up and get it going. But I want to put certain people in charge of it eventually, not me. It'll be other people. I already have several people in mind. But, I think there should be at least 3 people running it so that if something happens, you know, it's not totally removed, it's not totally wiped out, and that you have some kind of safety, a backup plan, at least 3, 2 backup plans if something happens. And I would like, my dream is for that group to become like a collective, almost like the Borg. you know how Borg, if any of you watch Star Trek The Next Generation, remember the Borg? They kind of absorbed everyone, and some people thought it was bad that they would just absorb everyone and they lost their identity, but they kind of didn't lose their identity. What happened was each time they absorbed a certain creature or a certain race, the Borg became more powerful in that they acquired all the technology, all the skill set of the race or the person they absorbed. You understand what I'm saying? So the group becomes a collective. And I know personally, just for me personally, some of the stuff you're seeing here on how I wired stuff, remember, I'm not an expert. I never did this stuff before. And unlike most of you who know to watch YouTube videos, I don't really watch too many YouTube videos that show how to do it. I know, that's terrible, isn't it? There's a lot of good channels that show you how to build a van, how to hook things up, how to do all that. And they even go so far as to explain safety and all this other stuff because they're experts. Me, I'm not an expert. I kind of review it real quick. I don't really follow everything. I just kind of look at their ideas and say, okay, I kind of get that. And then some of it I don't even watch. Some of it I just think about it and I just do it. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But if it does work, then I know it works. So I'm more of a, I guess, practical in the sense that I make sure it works. Because people said, in theory, even on the Living in a Van group, they said a swamp cooler won't work in a van. That's a crock of shit. It works. Even in Florida, it works. I can promise you it works. People say, well, it's going to be too humid to work, and they don't even do it. I did it. It worked. I was freezing cold. So I know it works because I did it and it worked. But I used ice. If you're blowing ice cold air at you, of course it's going to work. You're going to feel cold. People say, well, it won't work because you're putting moisture in the air. I'm blowing 32 degrees at me. Of course I'm going to feel cold. Okay, Connie's saying some folks are watching on TV. Oh yeah, those people can't even respond. But usually when I see like number 26 on here, I account for about 17 to 21 trolls. You know that's true, right? There's like 17 persistent trolls. So if there's 21 viewers, I actually only have 4 viewers. The other 17 are trolls, and Timothy will vouch for that because when I show the thumbs up, thumbs down, he'll say, "What the heck? In 1 minute, you got 17 hates." Just scrolling through here, reading some of your comments here. I can tell you about World of Warcraft, Maggie. I would not be alive right now if not for World of Warcraft. And maybe I'll tell that for story time. And believe it or not, guess what I'm getting ready to go back into once things stabilize for me? I'm going back as Shrek, back into... I can't remember the name of the land. I'm like, people are like, holy schmoly, you know what? You don't really play World of Warcraft. You Kalimdor or whatever it is. And what was the other land? But I like the original World of Warcraft. I like it all the way through Wrath of the Lich King. And then after that, I don't really play anymore beyond that. But I like up to that because you could still kind of explore. And it was interesting. It had all the different lands. I think Blizzard looks at real places and tries to copy it. Like I think even parts of it look like Thailand in there. I think in that land south of Tanarus, that new dungeon area that opened up. I haven't even fully explored all that, but I will try to play World of Warcraft, and I think that might have been actually after. Yeah, that part I think was added after Wrath of the Lich King, so I won't be able to explore Thailand or whatever. But I like exploring that because it's almost like real lands, like Badlands. I think America has a place called the Badlands, which I think is similar to where's that place? The sky lift that goes down, and it's got all those towers with the rocks on top. You know what I'm talking about? If you go down to South Barrens, Southern Barrens, and you go to the Great Lift and you go down, and it's got that little valley, and then it's got all those tall rock formations. That is based on America, as far as I can tell, in the Southwest, like around Arizona, I think. Maybe, yeah, around Arizona, maybe around that area, around Badlands. There's these towers that look just like that. So there's a lot of places in World of Warcraft that actually, to me, look like they actually copied real places or borrowed at least the setup for it. Maggie says she doesn't play it. She's old. Maggie, I play it and I'm old. And one of the guys that plays it with me, he's older than me. And what's funny about World of Warcraft is, you know how like some people think that I try to help people here in the real world on YouTube. I actually go out of my way to try to help strangers. In World of Warcraft, I'm what's known as a griefer. You know what a griefer is? A griefer is like an a-hole, a big a-hole. I basically on World of Warcraft. Now I try to do it fairly though. I actually go to their territory where the odds are bad, but I will have a low-level character, and I will actually kill another low-level character if they're stupid enough to flag themselves by attacking me. And I don't do it once. I do it like 100 times or whatever and piss them off. Then they log on their level 100 or whatever and come hunt me, but then I log off and then they can't find me. Then they log back onto their low level and I log on my low level and kill them again. So I do that nonstop. And people say, that's an a-hole thing to do. And I'm like, yeah, it is an a-hole thing to do. But it's in a video game and not real life. I'd rather be an a-hole on World of Warcraft than an a-hole in real life. Just scrolling through your comments here. I'm watching this on a smart TV and cell phone. It's interesting how it's delayed by about 4 to 5 seconds. The other thing is I actually have the Wi-Fi, but I don't know if it's still sitting. I think it's still streaming to my my Roku. So right now there's actually a device connected to the phone's Wi-Fi, which is broadcasting. So this is pretty good connection because nobody's complaining. What I was going to say is basically I'm thinking of getting another one of these Roku units. So I have one in the van and one in the RV. It's about $24 from Walmart. Otherwise, I have to keep taking it apart, moving it from here to there. And some people say, well, why would you buy another one? You can just take it. You're not in both places at the same time. Well, when you plug and unplug electronics like this, you run the risk of killing it. You run the risk of short-circuiting or some other weird stuff to destroy it. So at $24, I may go ahead and get another one so that the RV will have the same capabilities for streaming Roku, on there as well as the van. And that way, no matter which vehicle I'm in, the systems are similar. So Timothy says we are a tribe. I'm going to let people, maybe they can pick their own little names, but we're going to start to get a little bit more organized. One of the things I know Connie knows this, and several other people in the past, and some people think I've been lying about it, but those who have been with me from the beginning know that it is my goal to try to get land for the group. I'm not sure I want to be in charge of it because, like I said, I'm planning on leaving. I just want to be a hermit. But I already have certain people that I'm hoping will want to volunteer or, at least do it for a while and look for replacements for the. But I don't want just one person. I want to have like groups that are in charge. And honestly, one of the problems I hate being too organized. Because when you start to become too organized, you start to having all these rules, just like you become government, in other words. So one of the things I wanted to do, and this, tell me if this is crazy, and some of you will think it's crazy. I would like these little groups, like for example, if we got money into the account for Pay It Forward and we buy land, maybe give it to somebody. And you're like, what do you mean? One of our van dwellers, or not even not a van dweller, it doesn't really matter, somebody who wants to take charge of that plot of land, that becomes their land. They own it. And you're like, well, does that mean they can kick people off? Yeah, if they wanted to. And you're like, can't you make a contract so they can't do that? And I'm like, now we're becoming more complicated and sophisticated, and I don't really want to get into that. I want to find people that I trust will do what they feel is best with that land. And you're like, well, what if they feel like they want to keep that land? When I give them that land, it's theirs. Now, I might tell them I would like them to use it for this, and, they may be willing to do that. That's why I would give it to them. But if they change their mind later and stuff, I don't want to go back and say, I'm going to sue you. I'm going to do all this crazy crap, okay? And I know some people don't agree with that. They feel that you should draft up contracts and all this crazy stuff. I'm going to let you know that if that had been the case, Connie, Timothy, all these people could not have helped Denoy. Okay? Denoy wouldn't do it. Denoy wouldn't say, yeah, I assigned this. I got to do this by this time. Screw it. I don't need it. Okay? It's too much hassle. So I think that if you really want to help people, you help. And then what do you expect back from it? Nothing. Okay? And, I would hope that people understand the spirit of paying it forward. And that, if you're going to do something, you just need a little help and you want to move on, that you're honest about that and you take your little help, and then when it's time to move on, you move on. What I don't want people to feel is obligated. I don't want someone to feel like because we helped you on Pay It Forward, you now have to help everybody else. No. Helping is something you do because you want to, not because you're obligated to. Do you understand what I'm saying? So the system is kind of set up on a trust issue, but also on the issue of no expectations, really. I mean, I say that in theory, but my heart would be broken if, people take advantage of it. But at the same time, I don't want to babysit everybody. Yeah, see, Timothy says he's 55 and he still plays tank game on the phone and blowing up other people online. It's his way of de-stressing. See, some of the nicest people, when you meet them online, they're an a-hole. People wouldn't even know me if they saw me online. I am so mean. I can tell you some really mean stories. And here's the thing about it. It's like online, you don't know how old the other person is, and you don't know if they have issues. Like, I didn't realize online I was attacking this girl who was handicapped and griefing her. But she was a crybaby a-hole online, But when I did I found out what she was. I let her and her friends grief my characters without them knowing that I was letting them grief me. So I put up with it to try to make her feel better for all the grief that I put her through. But that's what happens online sometimes. AC says, can you play PS4 consistently with your setup with or without solar panels? I don't have a PS4, but you should be able to play with it fine. The issue is going to be battery power, okay? If you only use one battery, you're probably not going to be able to play very long. It has to do with how many amps this is what I know or think I know. So I'm going to give you some basic information. Remember, I'm not an expert on this, only what I think and what seems to be true from my end, okay? As far as I know, if something says it uses 1 amp, like my fan here, it says it uses 0.08 amps or 0.8 amps. But we're going to round it up to say 1 amp. That means in 1 hour, this thing will use up 1 amp. So if I have a battery, like my battery, which is a lead acid, supposedly I can go down to about 50% safely. But really, you shouldn't go down below 70%, but you can go down to 50% supposedly. That means my 100 amp hour battery, I only have 50 amps. So if I'm running this fan, I could conceivably run it for 50 hours before my battery has issues. Now, if I'm running 3 of these, then I'm running 3 amps. That means I can only run it for a little over 10 hours, maybe 15 hours, and then my battery is not usable anymore. I'll destroy my batteries. So I usually run this fan all night. Now, on a fully charged battery, I have plenty of power. But usually when I drive around and just charge off my alternator, it doesn't get fully charged. It like levels off at like 12.4, 12.6. Usually 12.4 lately, because it wasn't fully charging. It's getting weaker and weaker. But what I found with the solar panel, because it was charging all the way till sunset, it was reading 13.1, 13.2. I haven't seen my battery charged like that since it was brand new. So I know, let's take a look and see what it says now, because there's continual drain on the battery. Let's take a look. Let's see what it says right now. Okay, you guys can't see, but I can. It says 12.9. I have so much power right now. Remember, 12.8 is a full battery. I'm still a little bit overcharged. And that was from me running the TV. I could sit here, I know right now I could sit here and play video games for hours. But keep in mind, I don't have one battery. I have a bank of 2 batteries, so I have about 200 amp hours. And when I throw on the switch to connect it to the front battery, vehicle battery, I actually have roughly 300 amp hours. But I don't really use all 300. I only use these 200. You know, the battery there and the one on this other one in my portable pack that I have all over here. So those two are connected, and I have roughly 200 amp hours, which I would suggest as a minimum. So if you have a house battery system and you have the room, I would suggest at least 2 batteries, so you at least have 200 amp hours. If you have a lot of room, you could probably put an ideal setup, but it gets heavy, 400 amp hours. If you can put 4 batteries, 4 100 amp hour batteries in there, which is what I did with the RV, you should be able to run even a refrigerator, assuming that you have enough solar panels to charge it up during the day. Now, you're looking at possibly not using solar panels. That means you're probably going to charge it through your alternator. The alternator, from my experience, is only charging the batteries about 70 to 80% maximum. It doesn't want to charge it 100%. So that's a problem, because my 50 hours of time that I had is now cut down to about 20 amp hours, 10 or 20 amp hours. So, you know, like I had 50 amp hours, but I lost some of that because my battery wasn't fully charged. So I only have about 10 to 20 amp hours per night. That means when I run this fan all night, and it seems to be about true, in 10 hours, my battery is about as low as I want to let it go. Otherwise, I start destroying my battery. And I can only run one fan all night. You understand? And with only one battery, if I try to play video games, I might be able to play it for like 30 minutes to an hour. Then I need to start the car up and start it again. With 2 batteries, I should be able to play it twice as much. That's with it charged at 12.4, 12.6. If the battery's charged at 13.1, because when the sun went down, I should probably be able to play for a couple of hours. Hey, so you can order anywhere. The panels that I'm selling or helping to sell, some you can get new ones or used ones, but it's recommended that you pick them up. Or another thing we might do as a group, once Pay It Forward goes, this is what we might do, just to throw out some ideas. As I build a network of mechanics and stuff, I want to put together a resource so that if you're traveling around the world, hopefully we have a network of mechanics that we know are trustworthy. People like Marcelo, okay? People like Big Rob, people like, I have to track his name down, the mechanic in Orlando. I trust these people. So if you're traveling and you have a breakdown somewhere, hopefully there's a mechanic on the network nearby who knows Denoy from living in a van, who Denoy trusts, okay? They become somebody so you know you're not going to get ripped off. The other thing I want to do is possibly, if we generate money with Pay It Forward, where people donate money, we might buy solar panels for people. Like maybe do a little gathering. I'm not saying I'm going to be there, but groups could end up doing a gathering somewhere. Like somebody has a place we can ship, whether it be a warehouse or someplace. We can ship a pallet of solar panels and then order a bunch of charge controllers and cables and wiring and have a solar panel party where people take their vans there and you have a little gathering, like a little celebration, as long as you don't go crazy. But you help each other install solar systems, solar panel systems and stuff. And you're like, why would you do that? Well, some of our members are actually older people that might benefit from the assistance of somebody who can lift these heavy panels, who can do the wiring and all that. Some people like doing this stuff, because it's kind of interesting and fun. Other people just like using it. And some of the people that we have here, having the ability to have electricity and run a fan or a refrigerator, that is the difference between living comfortably and suffering every day. So that's the kind of stuff I'm hoping that Pay It Forward can do on my front. But it's also, remember, Pay It Forward isn't really me. It's you, the starfish. It's the people who are there that make up that group that will help to determine and shape how the channel develops and what resources are used for. When I say resources, I'm talking about any land we buy, any money we generate, how we distribute that. Could be as simple as giving money away to people. I don't know. I really don't care. All I know is my purpose was to try to set up a network so that people aren't alone without any resource. A lot of the people I've encountered living in a van have been people who are struggling financially. Some people don't even have vans. Some are homeless on the street right now in Las Vegas, sleeping on the pavement. Or even here, I don't know what the homeless are doing here. I saw a bunch of them. They hide in the woods now. They gather in the woods. That's how they live. There's mosquitoes here. There's snakes. There's alligators. So, I don't know if I'm going to do a homeless outreach per se. There's groups that do that. The group that I tend to favor trying to help tend to be a little bit better off than the completely homeless. A lot of times the truly homeless, they have issues that are beyond what I can help with. They have drug problems or drinking problems, or they may be extremely mentally ill and they need more help than I can provide. The group I'm kind of targeting for me personally, although it could change because the members of Pay It Forward are the ones who determine what we do as a collective. Just think of me as kind of a figurehead temporarily. I'm just there right now to set it up. I'm going to be leaving. I'm letting you know that. It was never my intention to stay there. It was never my intention to stay on YouTube on Living in a Van. Okay? Never was it my intention. I may end up creating another YouTube channel, one that I really want to do, which may have nothing to do with van life. You might not even know it's me. But I've learned a lot from this experience. These 4 years now on YouTube. I've also made a lot of connections, made a lot of friends. And hopefully, as some of you write me and tell me, hopefully I've helped some people. If I even help one person, then all of this was worth it. Somebody actually wrote, like on my thing about using steam, that it helped them when nothing else would. They literally felt like they were dying, that they couldn't breathe. And they were able to clear all the phlegm and other crap that was stuck in there, lodged in their lungs. So if I'm able to help anyone with anything, then all of this was worth it. Life of Sim says Bob Wells already did that. That's the other thing, is we could end up working with Bob Wells. Now, Bob Wells actually has set up, he's a little bit more official. He gets so organized. I don't really follow him too much, only when people refer me to him. They've got, and I'll probably provide links and stuff like that. They have a charity that uses money to build vans for people to live in. And he actually promotes this lifestyle. I know a lot of people think I promote living in a van. I'm the anti-Bob Wells. I don't think people should live in a van unless they want to. I don't think you should live in a van because you're poor and don't have any other options. I really think that if you're that poor and you're in a country like the United States, that shouldn't be happening. The country, the leaders, the people who run the nation, who collect your taxes and stuff, they should be able to take care of their citizens. People shouldn't be homeless on the street. People shouldn't be forced to live in a van because they can't afford to live in a real house. Does that mean people shouldn't live in a van? No, I think you should be allowed to live in a van. You should be allowed to freely travel and do whatever you want in your van if you're not hurting people or breaking laws. But at the same time, I don't think you should be forced to live in a van because you can't afford to live in a house. Do you understand what I'm saying? A lot of what I do here and show people here is because I was kind of somewhat forced into it. Some of it, I'm not forced to have a TV, okay? That's a luxury. But I'm showing you that you don't need a lot of money to do this stuff. You know, that TV was $15. The whole setup was cheap. And you're like, well, $100 isn't cheap. Yeah, $100 isn't cheap if you have no money, no job. But if you have a little bit, $100 can do it. Whereas if you have a house, this might be way more than $100 to get the same setup. It might be a little bit more comfortable, mind you. But, you know, I'm pretty comfortable right now. I got a nice cold breeze blowing at me. I have TV, I have Wi-Fi, I have internet. I have cellular phone service. I'm broadcasting on YouTube. I have a network of people that I consider friends that honestly, if I know for a fact right now, if I needed help, there are several people that would jump in right now. That's what I'm trying to set up for the Starfish. I want everybody that wants to be a part of it, that is a part of it, to not feel alone, to not feel like you got no help, nobody's watching your back. And that's why it's important that people connect with one another. Build that friendship. Establish that connection. Because you might need it. People tend to be more helpful when they know you and see you as a human being, not just some weird name on the screen, somebody they don't really know. Hello, Neon. Yeah, Connie says these solar panels will come in very handy for my off-grid home. You know that RV is like almost a self-contained off-grid home now, Connie. I'm actually trying to get it to generate water. So I'm doing some experiments with that. If I can get it to generate water, that thing, other than food, it makes its own electricity. And if it can make its own water, I'm going to try to make water out of thin air, believe it or not. I think it would be an amazing thing to be able to do. I know already there's some problems with that, but if it can generate some, you know, it's not going to be 100% what I need, but it even generates a little bit. But I'm running several systems. For me, I'm very happy that the viewers on this channel helped me get that, even though some people think I bought a piece of junk. I think buying a piece of junk and showing that you can live in it and you can actually turn it into something nice is worth spending the money on the junk. You know, I think it's worth showing people that you don't have to have a $20,000 RV to have a full-blown solar system working and have all the luxuries of life. If you're willing to put in a little bit of sweat equity and you're willing to have it just good enough. I know some people always insist on getting the very best. Well, you know, good for you that you can afford that, and good for you that you can wait until you get the very best. For me, I just need it to be good enough to do what I need it to do. That's why this isn't a brand new TV. That's why, you know, I didn't bother installing air conditioning, because the AC on the van works. If I wanted to, I could start the car up. That's my generator right there. Turn on the air conditioner and have it blow back here. See these? These are vents that'll blow nice cold air right at me. I can sit here and have it do that. In the winter, if I wanted to, I could start the vehicle up and run heat. Just like that. But, you know, always there's a chance of carbon monoxide poisoning, so I have my little detector right here. See the little carbon monoxide detector? So, you know, it just needs to be good enough. Is this van how I want to live the rest of my life? Nah, not really. I want to live in a house that I build myself, maybe underground or something. I want to build a junky house. When I say junky, I mean free. Like free. Maybe out of mud or something. But basically, I just want to live a simple life. That's all I want. Friends that I make from here, I don't know what the future is. I may try to stay in touch or I might just disappear. I don't know. I don't plan on leaving people, but if you're a hermit living in the middle of nowhere, you might not have internet. You might not be able to stay in touch. Scrolling through here. Hey, SD, good to see you on here. Just scrolling through here. People are having deep discussions on here. Boats have water makers. Look into it. Connie, if you're surrounded by water, of course you can distill that water. What people don't seem to realize is all the water on Earth that we have is the same water that ever was. Everything's recycled. Your blood is made with water. Everything's water. So some experiments I want to be conducting include water recycling using the solar, water recycling using electricity, water recycling using just the sun, and filtering and stuff like that. So a lot of it already exists. There are channels that show how to do this. There's some really smart people out there. I will be studying some of them, but trying to come up with really simple systems. If you've been following this channel at all, you're going to see that we don't exactly, like people say, here's how you put together a nice solar power system. It's only $2,000. On this channel, we try to do maybe not as good a job as theirs, but we try to do it for maybe $100 or $200. That's the difference. And the reason I do it like that is because for somebody who doesn't have anything, coming out with $2,000 is kind of hard. Coming out with $200 is already very hard, but $200 seems a lot more achievable than $2,000. And the reason $200 is, for me, my target, because right now, Pay It Forward isn't making any money, and when it does, it probably won't make too much. But if we can stretch that dollar and turn that $200 into $2,000 worth of comfort, heck yeah. And if we can buy land and, attract people that will actually try to maintain it and do it out of the goodness of their heart to help others, but they at the same time are the owner, so there's some, and you're like, well, why would you want to do that? There's certain reasons, and it has to do with just trusting people that people, I still believe that people are generally good. Even despite all the bad crap going on right now and personal bad crap happening with me and the trolls and haters right now, I still do believe that overall, most people are good. Just continuing to scroll here real quick. Wow. Okay, you guys are having good conversations. I do need to get to bed, but like I said, this is just amazing for me to have a fully charged. I can't even believe this. I can't believe this. Let me check it again. I just cannot believe the battery power. It says 12.9. I know you can't see it. Let me try to cover it. 12.9. Do you see that? The battery is still overcharged. That to me is just so amazing. So before I was preaching to people that you don't really need a solar panel. Now I'm like, hey, if you can get a cheap solar panel and a cheap, you don't need a MPPT controller, which is more expensive. The MPPT controller that I bought, the cheapest one I could find was $100, like $110. And people will say, well, they could get some for cheaper. Yeah, but I wanted it at like 40 watts. Not 40 watts, 40 amps. The amps is what's important. That determines your charge rate. I'm learning about solar now because I'm representing the company, but also because I need it. So I'm learning. I'm not like an expert or anything, but I'm learning what works and what doesn't work and how the numbers actually kind of relate. But basically, the more amps that you can get on your MPPT controller, the faster you can charge your battery pack. And some of you are like, why is that important? It's important if you run stuff like an induction cooker, a microwave, a refrigerator, air conditioner, and stuff like that. Those are high draw devices that will pull your batteries down and drain all the electricity. So if your solar panels are charging super fast because you got good sun, like you're in a place like in Florida, then most of the energy is coming directly from the sun, and your battery bank's being replenished. In an ideal solar power system, you're generating more electricity off the solar panels than you're consuming, so that excess power can go into battery storage and charge your battery up fully for the nighttime when there's no sun. So you can run your appliances, although you have to scale back at night. But you can run your refrigerator all night. You can maybe run a heater. You can do all these things all night because you have a large enough battery bank. Now, on a small vehicle like an RV or whatever, I think 400 amp hours I'm hoping is adequate. Really, if I had a tiny house and I was trying to stay completely off grid, I might want 1,000 or 2,000 amp hours of power. Like that's what they call the power wall or something like that. I might want 1,000 or 2,000 amp hours because then it's more like a real house. You can run stuff on it. But for being a portable RV, weight is a factor, and of course cost. I'm trying it right now with 400 amp hours of batteries. And if it does what I need it to do, which isn't really to run the air conditioning, but it runs the refrigerator all night and the lights and the TVs and stuff, I will be so stoked. As long as, the fans and stuff can keep running. I don't know if you guys know, this is really cool right now. It's blowing a really cool breeze at me. But I'm not looking for perfection. I'm just looking for good enough. And I know some people can't ever understand the concept of good enough. It has to do with being happy with what you have. And, oh, my battery's about to die. See that? Been talking all this time. And luckily, though, see how we have this panel? We have this cable. This is my little cable here. I know it's blurry. I'm going to plug it in. And we are charging up. Wow, I was down to 4% power. So that's the thing about having power. I can charge phone. I can charge my camera, which is the phone. I can do pretty much everything. Hey, Robert. Hope you're staying safe as well. Thank you for thinking of me. Scrolling through here. Robert wants to know if we can hook up a microwave. Microwaves are high draw. I did test it. I'm going to try to test it again. But I need to get some kind of circuit control thing because some of my stuff was getting fried. And it may have to do with either a surge happening when I use the generator, or it may have to do with I use a inverter that's not pure sine. A lot of people say that for electronic devices, you need a pure sine inverter. They tend to be more expensive. I may have to splurge the money and get a pure sine inverter instead of the regular cheapy inverter that I have. I basically try to do things cheap because I'm cheap. No, not really. I just don't have the budget to spend $10,000, $20,000 on stuff. I have to go low end because that's what I can afford. Now, if I had more money, would I buy the higher end stuff? It depends. If we're doing stuff for this channel, I might still buy the lower end stuff because I'm trying to show people what they can do with what they have. When you show off your $50,000 RV and stuff, it's going to have nice stuff. It's a $50,000 RV or a $100,000 RV. A lot of people won't be able to afford that unless they got that kind of money. But when I show stuff, I'm trying to show stuff that the average Joe watching my channel, my audience, the people who kept me alive all this time, they might benefit from that information. As far as running a microwave, I can tell you this. Microwaves use a lot of power. So if you run the microwave, you probably want to run it during the daytime because that's when your battery can charge back up. I would not want to run a microwave when your battery's not being charged because just to give you some figures, I had an experiment I did before I moved into a van. This is back probably 20 years ago. More like 17 years ago, 18 years ago, when my daughter was about 2 or 3 years old. That's when the power grid went down in the United States. I first got into batteries and inverters, and I didn't know much. I bought a car battery, so it's already the wrong kind of battery. It wasn't even a deep cycle battery. But I bought a brand new car battery, and I powered a microwave with it using a 1,500 watt inverter. Okay? And basically on a full charge on that battery, it would run the microwave for, I think you could cook meals 5 minutes 3 times. So it would only be enough to power that microwave 3 times before it didn't have enough power to run again. And the inverter would come on and go ee and not want to charge it up. So a brand new car battery, which was roughly 100 amp hours, would only power that microwave for 15 minutes. That's how fast you burn through that battery. Then, back then, when I was trying to charge it, I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I actually bought a battery charger that ran off 120 volts, and I was in a hotel room, and I plugged that in and let it charge in the bathroom overnight. Did it charge fully? Not really. To charge a battery that had been drained for it only took 15 minutes of running the microwave to drain it. To charge that battery, it would take probably a whole day. I slept overnight, woke up the next day. The battery was somewhat charged, but it wasn't fully charged. So if you have 2 batteries and they're both fully charged, you might be able to run that microwave for 30 minutes. But we're talking draining the whole battery, then you can't run anything else. If you have 4 batteries, you could use that microwave for 1 hour. So you can see why it's important to have more batteries, or not so much more batteries, but more amp hours available. That's why people push the lithium batteries. Unlike the cheaper sealed lead acid batteries or AGM batteries, these batteries can only drain down to roughly 50% or so, 70% or 50%, I forget the actual figure. That means a 200 amp hour battery will only last you really only 50 amp hours. And then if you're charging it off an alternator, you might only get 10 or 15 or 20 amp hours out of it. That's terrible. A 100 amp hour battery only gives you 20 amp hours of use. That's horrendous, but that's what the reality is. Now, on a lithium-ion battery or some of the newer technologies, I think you can drain them almost all the way down. So a 100 amp hour battery on that, you could possibly use it for 100 amp hours or 90 amp hours. You don't have that limitation, although they cost a lot more. That's the trade-off, but if you have the money, yeah, go for the better battery. But then you got to get a different charge controlling system. You got to get, even some of the solar things have to be designed to work with that. But you're going to see the higher end people that have their nice fancy RVs or their nice fancy vans. They tend to buy those expensive battery packs. Like one of their batteries might cost $800. It's like $800. I can buy 800 amp hours of batteries. Okay, they buy a 100 amp hour battery for $800. I buy 8 100 amp hour batteries. So I have 800 amp hours. They only have 100 amp hours. Effectively, I can only use 400 amp hours. I'm still 4 times more powerful than theirs. So from my point, having 400 usable amp hours versus having 100 usable amp hours, I'll take the 400 amp hours. The problem you have with 8 batteries that I buy, weight on space. It's going to take up 8 times more space and weigh about 8 times more than the other one. So, that's the trade-off you pay for paying more price. You get smaller space size, it's easier to carry around, and it's more efficient. But it's also 8 times more expensive. Neon's wanting to know if I park under a light. If you park under a light, believe it or not, the solar panel will actually potentially pick up that light and charge. It'll even try to charge on a full moon, when the moonlight hits it. Solar works off light, charging it. I'm not too worried about parking under light to have it charge overnight or whatever, although that's one way to potentially extend your power. I actually overgenerate. For me looking at it right now, my used panel right now is generating way more electricity than I need. So what's going to happen now is Denoy is going to become very inefficient. I'm going to start leaving stuff on during the daytime. Like I might leave my fan on to circulate air in my vehicle. And you're like, why would you do that? Well, it means that I can come into the van and it's nice and cool in here. It also will keep the van from stinking because air is constantly circulating. Do you understand what I'm saying? And this might become useful for somebody who might have a pet. Some people ask about having dogs and cats or whatever in their van. You might not be able to run air conditioning nonstop using a small system like this, but if you could run a fan all day and have it blowing air and circulating air in here, temperature might not be too bad. Right now it says 81. It still says 81. Although when I'm in front of the fan, it doesn't feel like 81. But if I turn that fan off, you can be darn sure I start to feel hot. Moving air makes you feel cooler because it hits your skin and pulls off the heat. Bob, SD Bob, says getting a used Tesla battery, you can get it down to 80 or 90%. Yeah, so if you can afford or find a Tesla battery, those batteries are nice, or you can make your own, possibly using laptop batteries. People show how to do that. There's a guy by the name of, I think, Jerry Garcia. I sometimes watch his stuff. He likes making battery packs and portable units and stuff. I think he's like Puerto Rican, and he kind of pushes that because Puerto Rico is always losing power from the hurricanes that hit that area. So I think he even donated some units and stuff down there. And I may be trying to hook up with some of these people to see if they can help with the solar panels. They might be interested in getting like a whole bunch of solar panels for cheap. Basically, I'm going to be connecting with some other YouTubers as well as people who aren't on YouTube who could benefit from having cheap access to solar power. So a lot of the bills, assuming Solar Wholesale doesn't go out of business when this is all said and done, if we can grow their company and get them to see that affiliating with me on YouTube is actually helpful, they may sponsor projects where we build stuff. Some stuff I'd like to try to build is like maybe a well, basically stuff for people to live off grid. Maybe things to help in a third world country where they can pump water. I don't know if you guys know, water is a commodity that a lot of people don't have, clean water. And even some people in this country don't have clean water. So, to me, it's a shame that we live in a world where some people don't even have access to clean water or clean food. And other people are wasting stuff. I hope to use technology and knowledge and connections that I build to try to equalize that a little bit. And when I say equalize it, I don't mean setting up a foundation and all that fancy stuff. I mean sharing the knowledge and possibly making funds available that people don't have to jump through loops, hoops or whatever to get. Just like the people who helped me, they didn't make me do all sorts of crazy stuff. They just basically said, here, Denoy, we know you. We're going to try to help you. And that's what I would like to be the driving force behind Pay It Forward, in the sense that we help people because we want to. We don't really expect much from them. Robert wants to know how long a car battery lasts if you use it for stuff in the van. I mean, what's the lifetime? You're asking something that has so many different variables, Robert. It depends on what you run on it, how often you charge it, how fast, how good your alternator is and all that. I can tell you, I used the car battery, and my car battery was not a good one. It wasn't a new car battery. When I put it in this van, because that's the first time I actually had to use it for survival and living, I had a junky car battery that didn't even hold a full charge. And I was using it as a house battery to run my fan every night. And I think it lasted 6 months to a year, but it wasn't a new battery, it was junk. And really, even if you have a junky battery, let's say you had a junky car battery, you could still use it to charge up your phone, your cell phones. And they sell batteries at Walmart that are used but still good for as low as like $25, $35. So at $35, you could buy a battery that will run your fan all night. That's like a car battery, okay? When you start going deep cycle batteries, they tend to be more expensive and harder to get used because people will use a deep cycle battery till they trade it in, you know. My deep cycle battery, I'm going to say this. This is what I've learned. Before I got into solar panels and stuff, I didn't recommend them. Now that I've seen what they can do to your battery, I recommend getting them. Especially if you can get cheap ones, which now you can because you can get them through Solar Wholesale. You can get them online, but they won't be as cheap. But you can get them through Solar Wholesale, and if we can get the network set up the way I want it to, we can have order like a pallet of it and have it shipped somewhere, and people can go pick it up and install it, and maybe help each other install it. But the whole idea of the solar panel isn't so much to run off solar, it's to keep your battery maintained at 100%. That will allow, you know, that's the biggest thing that kills your battery is you let it wear down and it doesn't want to hold a charge. So if you can maintain your battery and keep it charged, you're going to prolong the life. The other thing that I know affects battery life is heat. So if batteries get hot, they don't do so well and they start to die. So if you can keep the air circulating around it, you can vent it and stuff like that, you're probably going to make it last longer. Okay? I've never been one to try to extend stuff because some people go out of their way to build a box with circulation and a little fan blowing it. It's so fancy and a lot of work. I don't bother doing that because to me, I just like hooking it up and it just needs to be good enough. As long as it does what I need it to do, which the systems that I have right now, they do pretty much what I need it to do. And now I'm finding out it does more than I need it to do. So I'm looking at running luxuries like running a fan all day, running a refrigerator all day. But then at night, I have to conserve that. You know, I have to shut it down. So instead of running a refrigerator, I might get a freezer or something. But I don't want to spend a lot of money. I could buy a Dometic unit, save money, and spend $800 on a refrigerator or a freezer that's designed for this. Or I can possibly, on my end, buy a thrift store regular. Remember before, you guys may not remember, but in the old days, I had a small dorm refrigerator freezer inside the van. Yeah, 120 volt model. Now, the problem with those things is they have the compressor and supposedly the liquid in there, if you tilt it, it could cause problems. You know, it may not work or it might leak or whatever. So that's a potential danger, but I might get one of those units just to do an experiment where we take a little dorm fridge. You know what I'm talking about? The little 1 or 2 foot size ones. You know what I'm talking about, the ones for the dorms. It normally runs off 120 volts. I've seen articles and stuff where people convert those to run off 12 volts. I'm not going to bother doing that because I'm not an electrical wiring genius, and most of my projects tend to be off the shelf stuff that somebody can just plug in and work. The reason for that is not because it's efficient, but because it's doable for someone like me who's not that technically literate when it comes to converting 120 volts to 12 volts, when it comes to really complicated stuff. I just like to take store-bought stuff, hook it up to an inverter, and run it at 120 volts, which is what it was designed for, and just deal with the inverter side. That's less efficient. You're going to lose energy, but remember, we're not going for perfection. We're going for good enough. I just need it to run, you know, hook it up, run it, and not have it burn the place down, and have it keep my food cold or frozen. So that's what I'm looking at. And what I was thinking is if you get one of those units or a portable freezer somehow, just a freezer, a little one, and you set it on freeze mode during the daytime when you have solar power, you can freeze stuff or set it, you know, where it's cold enough, it starts to freeze. Then at night, you turn off the power to it. So it kind of starts to thaw out. So you have a little refrigerator. I don't know how that's going to work yet because, once again, that's another experiment. AC says, if you had to stay in the van on a day off on a summer day, how would the heat treat you with all those fans blowing constantly? First off, the fan blowing, it's not just blowing. I don't know if you know, my windows, typically I can pop them open so a breeze will go through, so you have air exchange. But honestly, on a hot day, I wouldn't be sitting in my van, okay? If it was a daytime, I'm probably parked under a tree somewhere, and I'm inside a library. This is assuming the world isn't like it is right now, where you can't go anywhere. But I would not be sitting in a tin can getting heated up. But if I had to sleep at night, which I did in the van, I run the fan like this. And if it gets really hot, I take a little bit of water and I spray it as a mist on myself. And you're like, why would you do that? That would be hot and humid and sticky. No, what happens is when you have a little bit of moisture on you, or I might even spray this and wet down the towel around me. What happens when the fan blade, the wind blows from the fan and hits it, the water evaporates. And when the water evaporates, it actually cools the air down, like 5 or 10 or 15 degrees. So, like it's 80 right now, like it's blowing at me, and if there's any little bit of moisture on my skin, I'm feeling about 70 something degrees right now, 73, 72 degrees, which is kind of cool. And that's just a fan without water. If I put water on me right now and had this blowing on me, I would probably get cold, believe it or not. So the whole idea of swamp cooler doesn't mean you really have to have a unit that's a swamp cooler. You could have a fan blowing at you like this, and you have one of those little squirt bottles, and you spray water on yourself. You just mist yourself or mist the air around here, and it'll actually cool down. And you're like, well, won't that make it damp in here? No, it dries out. You don't make it so it's soaking wet in here. And you have windows open so that the moisture, when it evaporates, it becomes kind of like steam. It flies out of your vehicle. If you have this thing sealed, like a bottle with no exit for the hot air, yeah, it's going to get humid in here. I never have this van completely sealed off. Life of Sin wants to know how hot it gets in Florida. Typically during the summer, it usually doesn't get above, 90 something. Usually the highest it'll get here usually is about probably 95, 96. The problem is inside a vehicle, it can get up to over 120 degrees. So most people in Florida, they have their windows tinted, which, believe it or not, will affect your temperature. It can keep your vehicle cooler. The other thing is, you'll notice I have these curtains. That actually helps to block the heat, too. The heat comes through the glass and bounces back, so it doesn't all get in here. But when I come in here during the daytime, during the summer, this thing usually says like 115 to 120 degrees. But when I open the doors up, because both doors on each side open, and I'll open the back and let it blow through. Within 3 minutes, my van cools down. Let's say outside was 90 something degrees. My van will cool down to the 90 degrees because I open everything out and let all the hot air blow out. The coolest you're going to get your van is ambient temperature, the air temperature. You won't get it cooler than that. Not unless you're running air conditioning. Now, if you mist yourself with water and stuff, you're going to feel cooler, and the air will be a little bit cooler, but it won't make the temperature drop way down. It's like this. If I wet myself when it's hot outside and the wind blows me and dries the water off, I'm going to feel freezing cold, but the air is still hot. Now, one thing you can do in Florida, Neon, if you're in Florida during the summer, I don't know if you know this, anytime you park by a body of water, which Florida has lots of bodies of water, like if you can camp out on the causeway or park at the beach side, when air blows across water, it cools down. What I found when I was parked on the causeway, even though it was like 90 degrees outside, it did not feel like 90 degrees. The air that was hitting me out there from the causeway, because it was blowing on the river, was cold. Not cold, but cool. Anyhow, I am going to go ahead and sign off for tonight because it is late and I have to go to work early tomorrow. But we're going to continue, hopefully within the next day or two. Pay It Forward will be live. And these kind of broadcasts where we're just chatting and stuff will be on Pay It Forward. And then we may end up having other people hosting Pay It Forward sessions. And the whole idea is just so that we're producing a forum where people can chat and talk and get to know one another. And people have questions you can ask, real time. And remember, I'm not an expert on these things. We do have some people who are very knowledgeable on this channel, and they can answer you live if they happen to participate. Anyhow, I am going to go ahead and sign out. Robert is saying get a water filter if I have to bug out. Yeah, I may get the problem is getting into any of those kind of supplies. They're all gone at this point, Robert. So, I'll have to make one, learn how to make my own filter. But part of it is to learn to make your own. See, I don't like the idea of having to buy everything, like these kind of survival supplies. If you have to buy them, you're going to be in caca when you're out of them. It's better to learn how charcoal filters work and to make your own charcoal by burning wood, that kind of stuff. I'd rather learn from scratch and make it from scratch than to buy it store-bought, unless it's an emergency and it's sitting there and I have the money, then I'll buy it. But really, I would rather make my own. Anyhow, I hope you all stay safe. I do hope that, this coronavirus thing doesn't claim too many lives, and that people learn from it, and that when normalcy returns, which I don't think it'll ever be the way it was before, when it does return, people will remember this lesson and actually apply it moving forward. And the other thing that I will stress is, with people shutting down and stuff, notice how much better the world is now. And I'm not talking about humans. I'm talking about animals. And the air is clean now. Even in Los Angeles, the air is clean. Imagine a world where Los Angeles has clean air. Or China. Where basically pollution was so bad, it's not anymore. That's the world we have right now because humans have stopped being the way they normally were. So I'm hoping that after this, it would be nice if the world said, hey, maybe we need to designate 1 or 2 days a week where we shut down to give nature time to react and rebuild itself instead of letting it get so polluted and bad. I doubt it. I think it's wishful thinking. But I hope people can see and actually try to get to that kind of world, because that's the kind of world I would want to live in. It's one that we're a little bit more harmonious with nature instead of just being so greedy and destroying nature. Anyhow, I'm going to sign out. Good night, everybody. Take care. Thank you all for joining me. Thank you for participating. I'm hoping that when we go to Pay It Forward, people will go on there and participate and actually chat with one another. Sometimes the stream may not even have me there. You might be seeing me playing a game or something. Use it as an opportunity to have live chats. It's kind of like AOL. Remember America Online? They used to have the little chat rooms. Kind of like that, except we're doing it on YouTube and we're actually getting money for it. Now, how's that for super AOL? Imagine going on to AOL and you're generating money for your group. Well, until next time, everyone, take care. God bless you all. Please stay safe. If Timothy says, ooh, 4-day work week. It could be real if people actually decide, you know what? Walmart doesn't have to be open 24 hours. You know what? We don't have to have 24-hour days. People can actually function with, 6 or 10-hour days where the store's open. People can actually function without having all this crazy stuff, paying for $2,000 basketball seats or football seats. If people take these lessons that they're learning right now and continue to apply them, I think it makes the world a better place. Some people say, well, it sucks. Kind of. But look at the positives. Look at the nature. Look at the world. Look at what's happening in such a short time. How the world is reclaiming itself and cleansing itself. That's what we need to be gearing ourselves for, is living with the world and not destroying it. Anyhow, I'm getting too philosophical, which means I'm falling asleep. So anyhow, take care, everybody. God bless you all. I look forward to catching you guys on Pay It Forward, which should be going live very soon. Take care, everyone. Be safe. And remember, stay away from people. Bye-bye now.